station, where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, my name is Daryl, and I'm a veteran.
Hey, I'm Travis. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Hey, my name's Jonathan, and I'm a veteran.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and I'm a veteran.
My name is Chad, and I'm a veteran.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Conversations with a Vet. My name is Carol Lee. So I first want to say thank you very much for Military Broadcast Radio for picking me up, because I am now able to reach out a lot farther. I'm going to be out there, looks like on Roku, MB Radio, X, a lot of different places. So I'm super thrilled about that. And hopefully we'll be able to reach more veterans and get the stories of our veterans out to other individuals, and hopefully get a bigger following for those stories. So I first also would like to start by saying, for those of you who don't know me, my name again is Carol Lee. This is Conversations with a Vet, and the goal of this channel is to have conversations with veterans, have them tell their stories, and get them out there as far as we can get them. So to start, if you haven't already now, I have been pushing these. We have several books that have been written by veteran authors. This one is Larry Burke's Quiet Heroes, Stories from the Front Lines of the Vietnam War. He is a Vietnam veteran. You can go to my channel, Conversations with a Vet, on YouTube and find there are 2 episodes of his interview. Additionally, Frank DeMith, also a veteran, this is his second book, Defending the Eagle. He also has another one. These are fiction, and they're absolutely great reads. I cannot wait for the 3rd book in that series. He's hoping to have 7. We also have James Blackwell, and he's a historian in the Korean War. He wrote Gunners, B-29 machine gunners in the Korean War. Super excited about that. So you can go check him out, James Blackwell. And then one that I still need to get him out on the channel is from Jeffrey Sabin's You Just Survive, Combat Chaos and the Quiet Battles That Follow You Home. All of these you should be able to find out there if you just search. They're out there YouTube or on Amazon, and a lot of them have their own author.com sites. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome my guest tonight, Tammy Harrington, Marine veteran. Please help me welcome her to the stage. Hello, Tammy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so very much for agreeing to come on the show and tell your story.
Sure.
How has your week been? Hopefully it has been uneventful.
Yes. It's been pretty quiet. I had family visiting and they left last week, so now it's the downtime.
I've got family coming in 2 weeks, so yes.
Nice.
Yes, and next week's going to be a zoo.
Yeah.
So I like to start off by asking my guests to tell me a little bit about who you were as a child growing up.
I was one of 4. I have 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. And the funny thing is, I was the toughest out of the 4 of us, where my brothers, my older brothers and my younger brother would always come to me for help with anything. Like if somebody was bullying them at school, they would be like, "Go get Tammy, go get Tammy."
She's going to take care of it.
They did some boy stuff, but I always followed them. They got a dirt bike, I got a dirt bike. They got a skateboard, I got a skateboard. But then I really stepped it up a notch, and I was like climbing trees and putting dirt on my face, like I think I was always like set for the military. And then they became like teachers and things like that. And everybody jokes like, "Oh, your sister's going to be, something tough." And of course I joined the Marines, and then I became a cop.
Wow. That's
So,
that's a huge jump. So
yeah.
so you were a pretty tough kid growing up.
Yeah.
Did you like school?
I didn't love it. No.
No. Did you do
No.
any sports?
I did softball in high school. Yeah, I like that.
What position did you play?
I was outfield, right field.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that, right?
Yeah.
It's a team
No.
sport, so every
Yep.
position counts. A
Right.
lot like the military.
Yes.
Except it's not a sport. But
No.
so tell me how you decided to join the military, specifically the Marine Corps.
I felt like I was kind of like lost. Like I went to college, I didn't finish, and I was just looking for something, and I was home, and I was like, I don't know, I just need to do something. And one of my close friends was joining the Marines, and he's like, you should join. And I was like, okay, I'll look into it. Maybe the Air Force or something, I don't know, or the Navy. My grandfather was both of them were in the Navy. And he gave the recruiter my phone number, who kept calling me at like 0:30 every morning, waking me up.
Wow.
And finally, after probably the 5th or 6th, 7th call, I don't know, I said, fine, if I come in, will you stop calling me? So he said, yep, I will. So I made an appointment. I went in to see the Marine Corps recruiter. He showed me a pamphlet with a female Marine on it. I read it. It said everything that I needed and wanted to hear in one little pamphlet, and in about a 5-minute conversation with him. And I was like, where do I sign?
Wow.
So
5 minutes. That's all it took.
well, that's all it took. It had everything I was looking for at that time, and a challenge. And I knew it was going to be the biggest challenge, but like I was so ready for it. And I wanted to get out of my house and, do something adventurous. And so,
What did your parents say about this?
they were shocked. My mom actually didn't speak to me for at least a month or two, maybe. My dad was proud. Like he saw that my mom was upset, so he didn't want to say too much, but I think he was like, yes, inside. And then like a week before I left, my mom's like, okay, you're really doing this. There's no changing your mind. And you don't want to go Navy like your grandfather. You really want to go and, do this insane thing of joining the Marines. And I was like, I do, and I am. And crazy me, the night before I left for boot camp, I was sitting on the couch with my parents, and I was like, let's watch Full Metal Jacket. They were like, so my mom sat there the whole time like this, and she was like, okay, this was the worst thing you could have put on. And I was like, no, Mom, this is getting me pumped. I'm so ready, and yeah, so she got over it. And, once I graduated boot camp, she couldn't have been more proud. Like they both were just so proud.
I can imagine. I know how I was with my boys. So absolutely. Yeah. The amount of pride as a parent is just amazing. So you get to, now were you East or West? Where did you go to boot camp?
I went to Paris Island.
Paris Island. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with Paris Island. So when you get there and you are stepping on those yellow footprints for the first and last time, what was going through your mind?
Oh boy. I was like, okay, I'm so tired. I just want to bed. Like I just had mixed emotions, but I was so tired that I was just like, it felt like I was in the twilight zone, and there's stay awake, stay awake. So I was like, okay, and then probably a few days into it, I was like, uh-oh, maybe I made a mistake. I don't know about this. They said, write to your parents and let them know you got here. And I did that. And then I was like, I think I need to come home. I don't know if I made the right choice, and then of course I get a couple of follow-up letters from my mom. I told you. And I was like, oh, why did I say that? But it was overwhelming at first. And, I was scared, and I'm not somebody that's like scared. I think I was more like nervous and intimidated. My one drill instructor, she was so tough. Actually, all three of them were really tough, but one was super, super tough. And like we had a sister side. We were platoon 4059 and we had 4058 on the other side. And to me, it sounded like sometimes they were in like summer camp. I was like, what are they doing their nails? Like we're getting screamed at and all kinds of things being thrown around. And I was like, oh man, but I'm glad I got the really tough, crew to, shape me into the Marine, that I am today and that graduated. Like I wouldn't have changed it, for sure.
What MOS did you sign up for?
I was 7222, which is Hawk Missile Operator.
Wow.
So when I went in, I said I wanted to be an MP, military police. And at that time, I think I was too short. There was a lot of restrictions. Yeah. And then I was like, I want to do like combat stuff. And he kept saying, the recruiter was like, but you're a female. I was like, you got to find something, whatever. And he goes, wait a minute. An opening just showed up it just opened up to females like months before. It was a combat related MOS. And he said, it's 7222 anti-aircraft missile battalion, Hawk missiles. So I was like, oh, I get to, I don't think I should curse on the show, but I said,
absolutely. Knock yourself out.
I said, I get to blow shit up. And he goes, yep. And I was like, sign me up. So the funny thing is I signed up for that. And then the day the recruiter's assistant, he showed up to drive me to MEPS in Brooklyn. When I got there, they were like, oh, my maiden name's Rostig. They were like, Rostig, you're open contract. And I said, absolutely not. And they were like, well, that's what we have on you. So I called the recruiter and I was like, somebody better pick me up now because I'm not getting on any plane because I signed up for this, blah, blah, blah. So the recruiter's assistant, who very, I guess it's like funny now, he's actually my husband. At the time, we didn't even know, we were just friends. And the funny thing is, when he was helping me, like, to get ready for the Marines, I just kept saying to him, is there hot guys in the Marines? I heard there's hot guys in the Marines, and then I end up marrying him. But he was like, you gave me trouble from day one. I dropped you off at MEPS and I had to turn around and go back and get you. And I was like, yes, you did. And then he had to bring me back the next day with the correct paperwork.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. So, all right. That's your very first involvement with the Marine Corps outside of the actual recruiter station. So does that give you pause, about going in?
Yeah, right away I was like, oh, because I heard things like, oh, the recruiters try to screw you over and things like that. So I was like, here we go. It's starting already, and I have to make sure I'm on top of things and my paperwork and,
Right.
everything like that. I mean, once I got to boot camp, like all bets were off. There was a girl in our platoon that refused to train, and the MPs came and they took her and they literally dragged her away. Like one guy took one arm, one guy took the other, and they dragged her away. And the recruiters were like, anybody else? And I was like, not me. I'm training. I don't care. I'll do whatever you say. But
Wow. So
oh yeah, whatever their tactic was, scare whatever, it worked. It worked on me. I was like, oh, I am training. I'm not going anywhere.
yeah. So tell me about your time within boot camp as far as your favorite, I'll call it event. What was your favorite training that you had?
Ooh.
I can tell you my youngest, he had two. His favorite was the gas chamber and rappelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nuts.
That is nuts. And it's funny though, like rappelling, I was scared because I'm not great with heights.
Mhm.
But it was eye-opening for me. So it probably would be, now I could say it would be, one of my favorites because it helped me overcome that fear right away. Because they were like, you're going over that edge, whether you like it or not. And they had a chaplain up there. And let me tell you, I grew up going to church, not every weekend, but, I got baptized and confirmed and everything. So like, I believed in God and everything, but there, I was praying. And when I saw that chaplain, I was like glued to that guy. I was like, pray for me, pray for me. And he was just really good. He was just such a gentle soul that like, I was like, I know I'll be okay.
Right.
And I saw girls go over the edge and like flip out and literally start flipping. And I just got in my own head and I was like, no, and I did it and it was fine. And so it was things like that, that really helped me like overcome like certain fears. It was so challenging because as much as you had to work as a team, I found that difficult because I'm very independent. So it was hard when I saw other like recruits like not doing what I thought they should be doing, or not really cheating, but I don't know. I just didn't click well with everybody. I was also a little bit older. I wasn't straight out of high school. That was a little bit harder. And they also like, some of them like told on people, which I'm not really about either. Like I felt like if you had a problem with somebody, go to them.
Right.
I did have some conflicts there with some of the girls, and one girl, she got something in the mail. Like one of her friends sent her Tootsie Rolls and flattened it in between like paper. So it looked like it was like just a letter or something.
Right.
So it was late at night and she walked around and said, who wants a Tootsie Roll? And stupid me and my obsession with chocolate, I was like, I do. So I had one. There was another girl there that went and told the senior drill instructor that recruit so-and-so got Tootsie Rolls in the mail and gave it out to some of these girls.
No.
So she came in screaming. And then she brought that girl in and made that girl tell on everybody that had a Tootsie Roll, like going through their stuff. I ran to the bathroom and I was flushing down my Tootsie Roll wrapper, but thinking I was going to get away with it. And that was it. The rest of boot camp, it was, where's my Tootsie Roll, recruits? And literally every hour in the middle of the night, we would get up and do mountain climbers, like exercises and everything.
Oh,
where's my Tootsie Roll, recruits? And so that one girl that told, like, oh, if looks could kill, I was paired up with her one day on the rifle range in boot camp, and it was not pretty.
Well, it could be. So my son had something similar. Um, they, but one of the kids, one of the recruits that was with him, there were a total of, I think, 3 or 4, including my son, and they were like little peanut butter snack things, and they were told nobody, I guess, earned one that day, so they were told to gather them up and throw them in the trash. And one of the recruits said, "Hey, they all said they were starving, right? So it's like,
Right.
hey, they will never know. They're going in the trash anyway." So no, everything was fine. And then they went in and they tossed, the barracks like they do, while everybody is out PTing or formation, what have you. And in one of their journals, the kid narked on himself. And then, of course, you know, listed the others that were involved in it. So yeah, that was pretty funny because
Yeah.
nobody was going to say a word, and
Right.
they never verbally said anything about it. Just so happened that one wrote it in a journal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know, I always got along better with guys. So me and a bunch of females, there was like 80 something of I was just like, okay, this is not for me, So I just clashed, with a lot of girls. There was, some that I thought were great. But yeah, it was tough. And we had a suicidal recruit, and that ended up being our responsibility. They made one of us stay up all night. Like we had to take turns being on like fire watch just for her. We had to sit by her bed because they didn't kick her out. I don't know why, but they didn't. They thought maybe she was just trying to use it as an excuse to leave because she was a mom too. And so I was really upset, about the whole situation. And I guess I kind of was angry with her because I was losing sleep because I was sitting there staring at her sleeping,
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you get to graduation, you get your EGA. Family there for your graduation?
Yes. My family was there. My grandmother was there.
I
My
bet they
mother
were
was
super
crying. She's like,
proud.
"What happened to you? You disappeared." Because
Oh,
not that I was heavy set or anything, but I still lost so much weight. I think I was like little over 100 pounds when I graduated, 111 maybe.
wow.
But yeah.
And then where do you go after that? You did was it ITB then?
After that, I had Hawk Missile School.
Okay.
The problem is I was the first one to show up. That was in Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso, Texas. And it was on an Army base because that's where the missiles were.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just a Marine Corps detachment on an Army base at Fort Bliss. So I showed up there and I was the only one there. And the staff was like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm here for my MOS school. They sent me here." Like I had a week off, like a week leave, and I was home. And of course I was jumping out of bed every morning at attention. And my mother was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know." But so then they were like, "There's nothing for you to do here. See if you can call back home and get like on recruiter's assistance." Because this class wasn't starting for another like month and a half
Oh,
or 2
wow.
months. Yeah. So I graduated boot camp in August. Yeah. And it didn't start till the fall. So I called the recruiter and he said, "Come back home, do recruiter's assistance." So that's what I did for 30 days. And then went back to Hawk School. And I was still the first one there when I went back. So then they just put me in charge of picking up all the other students, at the airport when they came in, and they put me on like working parties with the Army.
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, just doing odd jobs with the Army until everybody got there. So I like that I got there first, and I kind of got to know the area, the base, and kind of what was expected of me. What I didn't know is that I was the only female there in the class. So that was interesting. I remember my dad saying, "Hell yeah, Rossi, you show them," or whatever. And that's when I met my best friend, my brother, Travis Partington, was in Hawk Missile School.
He was.
Yeah, I remember picking him up at the airport, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know. He just didn't seem like Marine Corps type. He seemed like a metalhead, and I was like,
No way.
this
So
guy.
for those of
seems
you who don't
tough.
know, we're actually, he's a friend of both of ours. So I just can't picture Travis as a metalhead. I just
Mhm.
can't.
Yep. And it was funny. Like, it was kind of quiet and in the car there, but we just clicked. And then he gave me the nickname Princess, which used to annoy me to no end. And then
That's funny.
everyone else in my class, hey, Princess. And I was like, okay, stop with the princess. But it was funny because one guy offered like to shine my boots and everything. He's like, and that's why you're the princess. And I was like,
No.
no. I was like, but then I was like, listen, it's hard enough. I'm the only female here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go with it. It was great. It was a challenge. The physical training was harder in my MOS school than it was in boot camp. It was
Really?
a lot. Yeah, boot camp was hard, but this was, oh man, this was so hard. We were in the mountains in Texas, and we would do canyon runs. We would run with logs, and our class wasn't that big. So it was just us in the class holding the log. Then the last person would let go, would sprint to the front, and then get the
wow.
front position. And it was a lot. We were running, 5-10 miles a day, doing like 10-mile humps. And then we would go like on these forced marches, these humps, and they would gas us. It was like, I was like, okay, this is like boot camp part 2. And I remember one night in boot camp, it was right before we were graduating, and the drill instructors, like, they let us do like a question answer period, like when we were in the racks getting ready to go to bed. And somebody said, what about Rossig? She's going to be a Hawk missile operator. Is she going to be okay? And they were like, oh, fuck no. She's done for. She'll be dead. She won't be able to keep up. And I was like, so that scared me half to death.
How was it? You've got to be this, I would assume, the shortest person. Yes?
Yeah.
How did that go? I
Yeah.
can just see you holding the log, right?
Yeah.
And the log is
Yeah, and I'm like reaching up. Yeah. It was interesting. Oh yeah, the jokes were on me all the time. We had so much fun.
Travis said hello.
Hey, Trav. We got really close, and he was like, we're all your big brothers here, so just deal with whatever we give you, because we're just here to, protect you. And they definitely were. I definitely felt the love and support from them for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine that, well, it is a team, right? As we talked about at the beginning of the show, it is a team, and the goal, everybody has the same goal, and it's a matter of getting the team to that end post together, right? So I can absolutely see that happening. So funny stories while you're in training there. What do you got?
Oh boy. I remember on a run one time, I was like falling behind, and the gunnery sergeant was just not fond of me. I don't know.
Oh,
I
wow.
felt like just because I was the female, because he didn't mess with anybody else but me. And I remember he grabbed me by the hood, and I was like,
Whoa.
and just kind of threw me down. And I was like, I laugh about it now, and like, I can laugh with friends about it. I mean, it made me angry there, but I don't know, like things like that just made me tougher, just gave me more fuel.
Right.
I remember we were taking a test. So it was difficult because we had to do like aircraft ID. So we had to know, you see an aircraft in the air and you have to know exactly what type of aircraft that is. Obviously with Hawk missiles, you want to know friendly or foe. Obviously you don't want to shoot down, the wrong aircraft.
Yeah.
So that was a challenging class and test. And me and a bunch of people failed. The people that passed got to go to what is it? I forget what the team was, but they were it was an NBA game or something going on. And they all got to go, and then we were the failures. So like we would just laugh about that. And we ended up having to clean the floors and everything, but that
yeah. So, okay, from there, where do you end up after you finish your training?
There, the only place I could go to was Yuma, Arizona. That's the only place that they had the missiles at that time. Before that, they did have them in Okinawa, which I wish they still did when I went, because I would have loved to have gone overseas. But it was Yuma, Arizona, in the desert. There was nothing there, just desert and heat. And so we were sent there. We had to like acclimate to the weather there because it was so hot, and they had like red flag days, black flag, whatever, because of the heat. But I went into Charlie. There was different batteries, and we had to drive off base to go to another like remote area, just because that's where the missiles were. And I was on the launcher team. So it was me and a handful of other guys, that were on the launcher team. There was only maybe 3 females that I can remember, maybe in my platoon. But yeah, they sent us there, and right away we went to cold weather training, which was funny because it was in Flagstaff, Arizona, but it didn't snow.
Was it even cold?
So it actually was cold. It was cold because it was rainy. So it was that wet cold. And it was very high altitude. So I remember feeling like, I can't breathe here. But we were on skis in the mud. It was weird. But so we did that. And that's where I first learned, like, when you go out with a bunch of Marines, because we had like Libo, they put us all in a bus and of course took us to a bar. And I'm like one of the new people there. So everybody and their mother up the ranks were giving me shot after shot. Hey, Rossi, whatever. And I'm like, I'm good. And then they're like, this is direct order, and I was like, okay. So I'm like, and supposedly I got sick on the bus. So then I was put on a working party the next day to clean the bus with other people that got in trouble. I was like, wait a minute. It's really not my fault. I was being forced to drink it. But so that was my first experience with the social life of the Marine Corps.
And at the bar, and now how many other women do you recall were at the bar that were military?
Oh boy. I don't even know if any, maybe a few. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Being
I was just curious. Yeah.
Any other, females there. It was definitely challenging. Like, I liked being like one of the few females, and I also didn't like it. I just felt like right after boot camp, like the minute that started with the training and I was the only female there, like I always had to prove myself. I couldn't have a bad day, and I couldn't complain, because if I complained, then I would have been a bit of whiny female, So that was definitely challenging, but it was a challenge that, I took on. I was like, I worked my butt off, and people finally saw it, and, they were like, Rossick's no joke. She'll do whatever you tell her, and that plus some, there was a female that, a couple that they were just hooking up with guys and stuff. And, I didn't really get along with them. One was my roommate, and I had like a fight with her because of like things she was doing. And I was like, you're making me look bad. You're making all other female Marines look bad and things like that. So yeah, so there was a few instances I got in with people. And the funny thing is, I thought like it was rightfully so. Like I never really got violent, but the Marine Corps sent me to anger management. I was like, okay. And I sat there, and once again, I'm the only female in the room, and all the other Marines were like beating their wives, and that's why they were there. And they were like, so why are you here? And I'm just like, not for that reason, So
you don't take any grief from anyone.
No. And sometimes I'm brutally honest, maybe a little too honest. I don't know, but
no.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you are there. And how long were you there? Now, I know that they discontinued the Hawk program.
Right.
So tell me how that went for you.
It was definitely challenging. I felt like I was in like desperation mode, because a lot of the guys could transfer into like combat related jobs, and there was nothing really open for me. I put in for anything else for lateral moves that I could think of, whether it was mailroom, I wanted to work on the flight line, anything. Everything I put in for got shot down, like every single thing. And only a few people, it seemed like only a few people got what they wanted. And it seemed like majority of the guys went to artillery in like Camp Pendleton, California. And I couldn't go there because it wasn't open to females at the time. So my staff sergeant called me in, and he's like, Rossick, you have orders. You have to report to the chow hall Monday morning. And I said, what did you just say? And he said, you're reporting to the chow hall. I said, for what? And he was like, because you're now going to be a cook. And I was like, wait a minute. I went from blowing up planes to flipping eggs. I was like, no. So he was like, you have orders. You are too. And I was like, oh, so that's where I ended up.
Wow. And how long were you there in that MOS?
I was there probably maybe a year, maybe 6 months to a year. I remember I was like, okay, I don't like this MOS at all. I did like the people I worked with. I did like the staff. They were really good. Like the staff sergeant there, the master sergeant there was great. So there I felt like they noticed my hard work more than when I was doing the missiles. Yeah. So I got promoted there, which I was happy about, because I was Lance Corporal E3 for a really long time in the missiles. And then when I moved over to the chow hall, after a while I got E4, so I got corporal. So I was really happy about that. I was trying to put in to go on float, and things like that, but nothing really worked. And then I said I was getting out, like when my time was done. And I remember the master sergeant brought me outside and he's like, "You're such a good Marine. Please don't leave. You can transfer to another MOS." And I said, you know what? I was going to be a lifer. I was definitely going to be a lifer. I don't know if I would have stayed in Hawk Missiles, but I was like, it just put a really bad taste in my mouth when I got, orders thrown at me, go to the chow hall,
Right.
like, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't being taken serious. And, so I said, if I get out, I can do other things, especially having the Marine Corps background. I can get a decent job. There were people there, like when you were transitioning to leave, they had like Border Patrol was there talking to you about their job, and I thought that was really interesting. We had radars like for the missiles, and so there was a guy from Raytheon that went there and talked about that. So I was like, I could probably get a pretty decent job coming out of this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'll work on missiles, but maybe I could get something good with this.
Right.
And I didn't want to stay in the chow hall. Like, I didn't like my job. They moved me to like the bake shop, and I made like the Marine Corps ball cake, which was great. Travis was happy because he loved oatmeal raisin cookies. So
He posted that your cookie game was on point.
I remember leaving. They were like, "Rossig, why are you always leaving with a handful?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And I'm walking out with my plate of cookies, stopping off at his barracks. I have cookies for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I got out after 4 years, and it wasn't for me. Sometimes after I got out, it was definitely hard transitioning into the civilian world. And there were some times I was like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have gotten out. But at that time, I was with a Marine that was also getting out soon. And we had a child and everything. So, everything kind of just happened for a reason. So,
Right. So let's go back just a little bit. So I assume they had taps when you were
Yes.
looking to transition out.
Yes.
And that was just for the listeners, that was what was provided for you in order to help you transition back into civilian life. And that's where you had those companies come in and speak. So once you transition back to civilian life, were you able to find any local resources in your area? Were you aware of any?
Not really.
No.
And I know when I got out, I struggled with a lot of things, like some things that happened to me while I was in the Marine Corps, things that happened to me when I was a child that not even resurfaced. It kind of surfaced when I was in the Marine Corps. Because when I was in boot camp, what they did was they asked if anybody had ever, had any issues with any sexual assault or anything. And something happened to me as a child. And for some reason, it popped up like clear as day in my head in boot camp. And I was like, I don't know if I should raise my hand. I kind of kept it in for all these years, and I told no one. So I said, I don't know, they seem sincere. So I raised my hand, and they did put me with somebody to talk about it. So I felt good that I got it off my chest, but then things happened to me in the Marine Corps that just basically exacerbated it like to no end. And I never got offered help while I was in the Marine Corps with it. Like, it was just things that happened and you moved on. There was 3 instances. The first one was actually at Hawk School. But that person, like, I actually felt good with that process, because that person got demoted. They got transferred out. Like, it was like a really bad situation that I was put in. And that's where I got really close to my classmates too, because they saw what happened to me. And then the staff came and handled that person themselves, but they also took legal action. So that person did get knocked down to private and transferred out and everything. I did have to go to like some hearing. It was awful. And it was like, wow, is this how my time in the Marine Corps is going to be? And then of course there was a couple other instances, but I was like, okay, I guess not that this is the norm, but it was almost the norm. But when I got out, like, for some reason, I guess because I just kept going and working in the Marine Corps, that I never dealt with it. And then when I got out and I got home, and I just became more in touch with my feelings and emotions. And I told my parents when I got home what happened to me there. And they were just like, oh my goodness, like they couldn't believe it. But there was nothing, like, as far as the VA, that nobody sent me anything. There was nothing really like, oh, now that you're home, here are resources for you or whatever. Like, I felt like I was kind of like just on my own. Like, I was dropped off in like a desert and like, go find your way. There was a sergeant that got out and he came back and we were like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I couldn't do it. And he came back, he got back in. And I was like, I hope that's not me. It wasn't, but it was tough. I struggled for a while. What happened to me in the Marine Corps, I never really like spoke about it. Eventually, went to therapy on my own, but the VA, I started hearing things about the VA like through my husband, because he went to Desert Storm in Iraq. And then when he came back, like Desert Storm, after there wasn't much for him, there was some stuff, and basically all his symptoms were a mystery. And it was like, they just said Desert Storm syndrome. His skin smelled horrible. He had stomach issues. He worked in the burn pits, like, so that's it was like a blanket statement, Desert Storm syndrome, so I was like, okay. But it was always he and I, and then he went to Iraq and he got hurt. And so I was like, I have got to be the sole, breadwinner of this family. So anything that ever happened to me, I kind of just pushed back. It wasn't until I moved to Florida last year, 2025, I went to the VA and I said, I'm transferring here. I need a doctor here. And the woman behind the desk that was like registering me, she was like, close the door. So I was like, okay. And she's like, what did you do in the Marine Corps? So I told her, and she's like, I'm going to give you some paperwork and tell me if you were ever exposed to these things. I was like, I was exposed to all of these things on a daily basis, some of them, radiation, things like that. And I do remember, like, a lot of the guys in my platoons were having kids, the older guys, and their kids had multiple problems. They wouldn't gain weight, they wouldn't eat, things like that. So I was always worried about that with the radiation. But she was like, what about, military sexual trauma? Did that ever happen to you? And I was like, yeah, a few times. And she's like, did you ever get help for it? I said, no. And then I kind of said, like, I don't think I need any of this. I feel like there's vets that are way worse off than me. And she said, stop right there. She said, you've gone through what you've gone through. You've done your time. You were exposed to so many things and bad things happened to you. and you should take advantage of, what the VA can give you and things like that. So I do have a good doctor down here now. I haven't started any paperwork, and my husband keeps on me for like, you really need to go, get a rep and,
Right.
start trying to get, your percentage or whatever. Also for years I was a police officer. So I was like, I don't want to get in trouble with my job, so I'm just going to push through and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't until I got down here that I really my eyes were open to, wow, you should be putting in paperwork for this.
Right.
And I was like, really? And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, do you have hearing loss? I'm like, yeah. She's like, don't you think that's a problem? And I was like, yeah, I just I don't know. I guess between that and being a police officer and going to the pistol range and stuff, I don't know. I just never thought anything of it.
Right.
But nobody before this woman last year had ever said anything to me that you should be getting this, or you should be putting in for paperwork, or giving me pamphlets of things that, I was exposed to. There was things on that list that I was like, oh, what is this? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, yeah, every day, so.
Yeah. That's really interesting that it took that long.
Oh, yeah.
To find somebody to take the time and actually ask
26 years after I got out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Someone opened my eyes to you should be getting something. You need to get help for this. You should be talking to somebody about this. Yeah, and then I became a mom, and I had issues with my children. So my therapy was kind of always focused on that and never on me. And,
right.
I kind of just put it off, on the back burner. And this woman was like, I guess she could see it and hear it in my voice. And that's why she was like, close the door and sit down. And I was like, uh-oh. She's like, you're not in trouble. I just want to help you because I've seen too many of you come in here and not get what you should be getting.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important to know when you find somebody like that, you really want to hang on to them because as best you can. So let's go back. Tell me a little bit about, you said you had been a police officer. So what was it like in comparison going through the police academy versus boot camp?
It was hard only because I was older. My class, a lot of us just missed the cutoff, which was 35. So I was an older recruit. And it was tough. Physically, it was tough. And all over again, a lot of our instructors were Marines. And they were looking at me like, oh, you're a Marine, so you should do this, this, and this. And I had just had a baby right before I started training in the police academy. So I struggled a lot because I was on bed rest at the end of my pregnancy. There was a lot of issues after. So it was challenging, but mentally it was like a joke because I knew what I went through in the Marine Corps,
right.
And there were girls that were crying and I was like, oh, please, even after I got in, these guys would complain about the silliest things, I'm on my feet all day. And I'm just like, oh, and some of us, there's a lot of military and Marines that are cops, and we would say these guys wouldn't last a day, would not last a day in the Marine Corps, so it was easy, mentally, physically, it was challenging just because I was older, and had some, previous challenges with just having a kid. But, yeah, it was the funny thing is I took the test when a few years after I got home from boot camp, and I didn't get called for a few years later. And the woman that called, she said, "This is so-and-so from Port Authority. Are you still interested in the position for police officer?" And I started laughing. I was like, "Who is this? This is a joke." And then she was like getting like, I don't know if she was angry, but she was like, "Ma'am, this is," and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, I am. And I remember hanging up, and my husband was like, "Are you serious? You're going to do this?" And I was like, "Do we have a choice?" Like he came back in 2005, and he didn't even get anything from the VA for years.
Oh,
So
goodness.
he was deemed unemployable. They did that. They said you can't work. So they said he couldn't work, but they weren't helping him right away. He had to fight. He had to go through the DAV and get a rep and everything, and appeal after appeal. And he finally got everything he deserved. But I mean, when he came back, we were living on credit cards. It was a nightmare. And I said, even if I didn't want to take this job, I don't have a choice. And I went to school for law enforcement, like for criminal justice. So I finished school after I came back from the Marine Corps. I went online. I was a single mom. I remember having my son on my lap and I'm typing away, and I felt bad because I had lost my dad in 2001.
Oh, goodness.
And I was super close to him, and he put a lot of money into my college before I went to boot camp, and I didn't get a degree. So I was like, I don't just owe it to myself. I owe it to him, to finish and get my degree. And I'm glad I did. Like that, and the Marine Corps, definitely, I know the Marine Corps helped me get my job. Yeah. They said that in the interview. They were like, "We see you're a Marine. We see you're a Marine. Like, what do you bring to the table as a Marine?" And I just said everything they wanted to hear, just what a Marine, knows. That's all I knew. 15 minutes prior,
Yeah.
So, and give 110%. So I don't regret a day of it. There's so many horrible things that happened to me during, and so many things that I should have probably gotten after. And some of it's on me. I was always that tough Marine or cop. I don't need help. I got it. Which is also sad, and why there's so many suicides with veterans, with even active duty. We had actually a cop at my command kill himself, and he was a Marine prior.
Oh, wow.
Young guy. So I see it happen. A lot of people don't ask for help. They don't. So
Right.
It's that tough, that shell that you put up. But
Right. So tell me about one of my questions. And by the way, for those of you in the chats, feel free to post some questions for Tammy. But my question is, how different was the firearms training from the police academy versus what you learned in boot camp?
it's so funny because I was like, I got this. I've shot anything and everything, because especially with my MOS, like we went to the rifle range, but we would go to different ranges. We would shoot 50 cals, grenade launchers, like they had tanks set up, and I was like shoulder fired weapons. So I shot everything, even after boot camp. When I was in Yuma, we went to certain things. And even actually when I was in Yuma, they said, "Oh, Rossig, you're going to do guard duty." And I was like, "All right, I need a break from work." And they were like, "Well, you'll work 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." they were like, but you have to get shotgun qualified. And that's the only thing I didn't shoot, that and a pistol. So I went to that range, and I don't know, I thought it was like shooting a rifle. So I remember holding it, and the thing was like this, and all the Marines just hit the deck, and they were like, what? And I was like, oh, okay, it's not a rifle. So they were like, okay, you're good. Guys, give her the shotgun and go on duty. I was like, okay. But in the police academy, I was like, I got this. And I'm like, little pea shooter, whatever. I'm like this, and I'm like missing, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, I was a pretty good shot with the rifle and all the big guns, and that little gun just, I don't know, just kicked my butt. Like, and they always said like females did well with rifles, we could cradle it and things like that.
Right.
And in prone position, it was just really easy. So I like my big guns. So it was definitely
I like mine too.
Yeah.
So I do have a question from the chat. So G23 wanted to know, if you could go back to any place that you visited or were stationed, where would you go and why?
That's funny, because the only place I went to was Yuma, Arizona. However, we did go on field missions, and we would go to the field and train 45 days at a time. So I would probably say we went to Cherry Hill, North Carolina. We were like way out in the woods, and I think I had the best time there because I missed home a lot being in the desert. Like, I missed green, I missed grass, I missed the smell of trees and, things like that. There were like coyotes and scorpions and things like that. And I was like, okay, where's my chipmunks, skunks and stuff like that. And I remember one night we were in the tent, and we were on our cots, and one guy screamed, and I jumped up. I was like, what is it? And he was like, what is that? And it was like, I don't know if it was a raccoon.
Okay.
And he's like, I think he was from Vegas. I don't know where he was from, but he never saw a raccoon, and he was screaming like a girl. And I'm like laughing, and I'm like, oh, it's so nice to see them, and they're like, okay, you're crazy. So I would have to say our training event in North Carolina, just because as soon as we stepped off the plane, like, I felt like I was a little bit closer to home. I was back on the East Coast, and just the smell of the trees and everything like that. And I just love nature and the woods. So that was really good, because usually we were in the desert and it was 120 during the day and like freezing at night. Like, I remember I got really sick one time just because of the temperature change. And, there's no like showers. So we had like a 50-gallon tank that you'd pour over yourself to shower. And that was like 45 days, so our training was the most memorable, but that one, at least we had tents and cots. So I felt like I was living the high life, because some of the other field things, I remember cold weather training, we were sleeping on the ground. And I remember our captain was like, Rosig, do you want to sleep like in the officers' quarters, so you're not like the only female in your tent? And I was like, no, I'm staying with my platoon. I was very I wasn't like that. I'm like, no, I'm staying with them. I trust them. But I learned more about men than I ever wanted to know, on those 45-day field events. Like, I remember just the smell waking up, and I was like, I remember having my sleeping bag over my face, and I was like, what are you guys doing? And they were like, oh, we're not changing our socks the whole time we're here. We're trying to see who could keep the same pair on the longest, like, to see if they stand up straight. And I was like, oh, But I was like, yeah.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, the things I learned there about guys, but I gave it right back to him, whatever,
Let me ask you this. So, how do you feel your time in the Marine Corps has affected you in your civilian life? And positively, negatively?
Um, I think it definitely, well, it helped me definitely with my career in law enforcement. Um, I was always like, when I came back, even from boot camp on, I was always watching my surroundings. My back was against the wall, and that helped me a lot with policing.
Right.
But I think it overdid it. I probably didn't trust a lot of people, probably because some of the things that happened to me in the Marine Corps, and you're like, these are other Marines that I should be able to trust, my coworkers, so I definitely had trust issues. I was tough from day one, so it only like strengthened that. So, but I know as a mom, like my kids were like, I feel like you're the platoon sergeant and we're the recruits. And same thing with police. Like, my son's like, oh, here comes Detective Tammy, like he's like, you always think the bad about everything and everybody. And I guess that's just what I've always like learned. And, when you're in the Marine Corps, go get the bad guy, go get the bad guy. It's not like, oh, let's go have a picnic. Your
Right.
training was to go kill. And I loved it because that's just what I loved. Like I loved tough things. I loved challenges. So it only strengthened my strength and like my ability to work in a team. That for sure helped it. And it helped with policing. But it also helped me to like learn a lot about other cultures. When we would go to these field events, there would be other countries there. The UK, we would trade food with them. They would have like canned foods and we would have like the bag MREs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that looks really good. And they were like, what do you have? And I was like, here, it's a green bag. It's gross. It's green eggs. Enjoy. I'll take your can of beans, please. So I don't regret it for a minute. There was definitely some not so great parts, but I think those times also helping to strengthen me. It's just the part in me now that's very untrustworthy, even within my own family. Like they feel it. They're like, Mom, you're not at work anymore. You're not in the Marine Corps anymore. Like let your guard down a little bit. And so that's been a challenge for sure.
Right. Right. And then in talking about eating, obviously in the Marine Corps and probably any branch of the military, you're given X amount of time to eat before you have to get back up and go back to PT, etc. So knowing that, the question that has come across is, do you still eat your meals as fast as possible or have you returned to civilian standards?
I learned that lesson very quick in boot camp. So after I graduated, I made sure to eat slow because one day in boot camp, they have somebody that stays outside on rifle watch. And you're watching the rifles as your platoon goes in and eats their lunch. Now, they obviously didn't have a lot of time either, but they got a lot more than you. You had about 30 seconds when they were done to run in. When they came out, you could run in and eat your lunch. Well, I was starving and I had my 30 seconds. And I remember the drill instructor standing over me. Okay, Rossi, whatever. I had my chicken stew or something. And she's like, 30, 29, 28. And I'm like, And I'm like, uh. So now I'm going like this, and there's a recruit across from me, and I'm going like this. And she's like, stop, like, you're not supposed to be talking to me. So she kept going, stop. And I was going, and she's like, are you joking? And I was like,
Oh my
so
God.
she gets up. She's doing the Heimlich, and now I'm turning blue and everything else. And finally, like last minute, this huge piece of chicken goes flying across. Now we're in the male first platoon. We were 4th battalion. We were in 1st battalion because we were getting our pictures done.
Okay.
So we were eating with a bunch of male recruits. So you can only imagine, here's this female recruit around a bunch of males, and there I am choking as chicken goes flying across the room. And after that, I was like, and the drill instructor was screaming at me, you don't even know how to chew your food. I was sitting there like, I almost died. And she could just yell at me. So with that being said, as soon as I graduated, I was like super, super slow because I just remembered I only had 30 seconds and it didn't work well for me. So
Right.
yes,
And only one life.
I take my time. I take my time and enjoy my meals because I didn't even know if I tasted anything while I was there anyway. So
Right.
yeah, I'm a slow eater now.
So what kind of words of wisdom do you have for anybody looking to join the military in today who might be considering the Marine Corps?
Very partial. I always make fun of the other branches. Like my husband was attached with an army unit in Iraq, and we're always like, we don't say the A word in the house. Everything starts with M. But so I always push the Marine Corps, but I also don't, because I'm like, if you want a better, I don't know, source of living, like you want to maybe stay in a hotel in places, join the Air Force. If you want any kind of bed, maybe the Army or the Navy. If you like the ground and your pride, join the Marine Corps. So Marine Corps is all about pride, and I would have picked it over and over again every single time. But if I always say, though, if my own kids came to me and said I was joining, here's the Air Force paperwork,
Right.
But yeah, from a pride standpoint, I would always push the Marine Corps just because, I don't know, they say we're better, and I believe we're better just because our training is that intense, and it molded me into this person that I feel like I can accomplish anything. And I know that I'm not invincible, but I know my training has taught me, everything I need, like, to get through life. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the military. I would, advise, just advocate for yourself. Know what's your resources, know what's out there for you before you go in, while you're in, after you go in, and take advantage of anything, that you can. It's come a long way, the VA. I've seen it because I've watched, like, my husband, who's 100% disabled vet. I've seen him go through the process of having nothing to, like now, like, if, for example, he couldn't get an appointment through the VA for like maybe 50 days was the next appointment. And now they have like community care where the VA will cover like a civilian doctor.
Right.
So he was able to go like in a week's time, so they've definitely come a long way. They have way, way far to go. There's still a lot of issues. There's issues, even like, I highly believe in acupuncture, and they were paying for that, and then they stopped paying for it, and there was no reason. Like, the doctor was sending them reports and everything of how well I'm doing in my circulation and is getting so much better. And they're like, we don't see that it helped. And I'm like, you didn't even ask me, like, how do you know? Like, so
Right. Interesting.
I still feel kind of like a number, to them. And I guess it'll kind of always be that way. But I would always recommend the military, and I would probably always push for the Marines just because just how proud, you are. You don't get the top of the line anything, but you get and you keep your pride. And to me, that's worth more than anything. Money, luxury, anything.
Right. Well, I have to say, Tammy, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.
And again, thank you. We're absolutely honored to have you. And if you would, go ahead and hang tight for me.
Sure.
Everybody who's listening, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I have another show scheduled for 2 weeks from today, and that's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, and that again is 2 weeks from today. So super excited about that. So please make sure that you join me then. We have several thanks for your service, Tammy, in the chats.
Thank you.
So you're aware.
Thank you.
And again, everybody, please have a wonderful rest of your week coming up, and everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Thanks for watching and listening to Military Broadcast Radio on Roku TV. If you missed today's episode, the podcast will be available on
and all major platforms shortly after we go off the air. We're here for you, not for us, giving veterans a voice. This is Military Broadcast Radio.